getting ready for my coffee this morning, deciding which cup would make me happy. This is a kind of dull looking one, isn't it? I mean, it's not very interesting, but I love that handle. It makes it, you can balance it really well. So, have you heard of this game? It's called Pass the Story. Kids do it in school, but before it became a school game, before we played games, educational games in school, it was a game that people used to play, finish the story. There are a lot of different names to it. There are even some books like this where, you're reading a story and then it says, go to page this or page that. And you choose which one you want, and then it continues the story in a different direction. Well, in Pass the Story, what you're supposed to do is somebody starts telling a story, and then they stop and they pass a ball or a book or something, and then the next person has to continue it. There's another version of this game called the Suddenly game. And the way it works is you're supposed to make it like you're telling a story, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly, and then the next person has to continue the story. Well, I'm talking about this. I'm going to finish or get working on my coffee while I talk, okay? One of the reasons I'm telling you about this is not so you can play the game. But it's so you realize that some of us are doing this game with ourselves in our minds, okay? So we're thinking about things, maybe about the situation right now. And what our minds do is we're thinking, and suddenly... and it takes a turn to something scary or mysterious or upsetting or, and this is it's funny because people have trouble when they're playing the game in a social situation, the Pass the Story game or in school sometimes, but our minds have no trouble taking us to places where we often don't want to go. And what's the reason for that? The reason is we all have a tendency, it's sort of a natural tendency to blow things out of proportion. I'm an extremely creative person. I'm always thinking of unusual scenarios. And I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac too, kind of always have been. I think it comes along sometimes with being creative. Here, let me show you my coffee. Ooh, yum, yum. So what has happened to me, actually in a lot of work situations I've been in, people have enjoyed my creativity because I tend to think outside the box. But the thing is that personally, this has sometimes not served me very well because what happens is, I'm thinking about, and I'm not going to give you any examples because I don't want to put any ideas into your head, but like thinking about the whole coronavirus thing, and then my mind starts working and starts turning. And I imagine scenarios that I have not, even read as possibilities on the internet or heard on the TV or anything like that. And sooner or later, I'm thinking, what if this were to happen? I will say that anybody who's in their 60s and possibly their 70s, you probably have built into you a certain amount of fear of a worldwide catastrophe because when we were growing up, there was the threat of the atomic bomb. And we used to have bomb drills at school, and houses and apartments and buildings had bomb shelters, and there were all kinds of movies about that. And basically, what it did to most kids, it was, fascinating, almost morbidly fascinating, but it was also really scary. And I know for me, it sort of built that, oh no, what? Something that's stopping the world? Anyway, so for those of us in our 60s and 70s, and maybe even 80s, it can be perhaps a more difficult time now. So, okay, I was talking about that game and how your mind can start taking off with you. Very good. Your mind can start taking you off on, that Disney Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. You can end up on that going places you don't want to go. You know what? It's normal and it's natural to be scared right now. It is. Any person in their right mind would be. But, okay, here's the thing you need to think about. Say, I know my mind can take me off in directions I don't want to go. So, what can I do about this? Okay, well, first of all, when you find your mind starting to ramble and play the suddenly game or the what ifs, you need to stop and say to yourself, okay, I can't control what's going on out there. I can't even control if I get the virus. And the reason I'm saying that is because, they don't totally know how it spreads. So, and I won't give you any of the wild scenarios that went through my mind at the beginning of this before I got a hold of myself. But all you can do is the instructions you've been given by the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, or I see there's some people from other countries watching, whatever your national health organizations have told you to do, you do that, okay? And you use common sense, and you're careful. And then you know what? Then you take care of your mental health. This is a mental health thing. If you are scared, anxious, if you're going off on these whole things about, oh no, what if, okay? Don't play that game. So how do you stop playing it? Well, you've got to get your mind going in a different direction. Now, I've talked a lot about that, a lot about the stop, challenge, and choose method, and I can send you a free ebook about it too if you let me know that you want it. But here's the point. We're all concerned about our physical health. There's not a lot we can do about the virus, but we can start taking better care of ourselves, and we can see to our mental health, okay? This is a good opportunity for your whole life, not just for right now, to learn what gets you off onto emotional wild rides and get a handle on it. Isn't this going to be useful after this whole thing is over? How many people are worriers? How many people are maybe even get angry because you let your imagination run away with you? Maybe you get depressed. You get nervous. You can learn to get a hold of yourself. The stop, challenge, and choose method's a really good way. Another one, Mel Brooks, is that her name? No, Mel Brooks, I think that's a comedian. Mel Robbins. Well, comedians are good in this time too to get you laughing. Mel Robbins. She has this method called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right? So if you're sitting around, even laying in bed at night, that's sometimes a bad time for imagining all kinds of catastrophes. Say to yourself, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Get up, change your position, do something different, step outside, If you need to, gee whiz, put an ice cube or a wet washcloth on your face. Something to shake yourself up a little bit to free your mind to begin thinking about other things. And just real briefly, I've talked about this before, but I'll say it, just one more time. Your emotions live in the back of your brain, okay? They're like a backseat driver sometimes. Sometimes the backseat driver has good advice, right? But most of the time, the person that's in the driving seat up front is the one that needs to call the shots, right? So, that's your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive branch of your brain, all right? That's what you need to be listening to, not the emotions. And real briefly again, a lot of people feel like, or think this way, if I feel worried or upset or scared, there must be a good reason for it. No, very often there is not a good reason for it, and you need to stop that and get up in the front of your brain, be practical so that you can make decisions and get out of that whole emotional what if and suddenly game that I was talking about at the beginning, and stop creating scenarios. Do what you need to do, okay? You do what you can, and I don't want to upset any people, but some people have never thought about, well, what would happen if I became very ill, or, if I was on my deathbed. This is probably a good time to think about it. Make a list. Write down your concerns. Very often when you write these things down, they're concrete things. They're not these sort of ephemeral things that are floating in your brain, sort of creating webs of fear and worry. You write it down, okay? And think about how you would deal with it. No, you may not be able to figure something out right away. It may take you days, weeks, months, but sooner or later that is something you're going to have to face, right? One sure thing about life is we are all going to die. Now, I don't want to be getting anybody upset, okay? But what I want you to understand is you can control the way you think, and you can make yourself happy. You're the only one that can make yourself happy, okay? So you can go back and listen to some of my other videos. I've got my YouTube channel, Mama Stella's Whiz Bang. Take a look there. I see there's people on. Let me just say good morning. Sophie, hey, and Wanda, hello. Tonice, that's an interesting name. Good morning. Betsy, hey, and Rosemary, Cynthia, Ian, Christy, and then I see there are other people on, but I can't see your names. But I wish you a good morning and a happy day. And, confront reality. Don't live in a fairyland, all right? Because ultimately, you will be happier if you can confront reality. But you don't have to confront it all at one time, little by little. And oh yeah, I just got out of the shower, so my hair is, I'm going to poof it up a little bit here. I'm going to go drink my coffee. Y'all, have a good day. Be responsible mentally too. God bless you.